throughout history, there's like providers of capital who owns the assets, and there were laborers, people who, operate these assets to produce an outcome of a sort. So far, the split is 65-35. So therefore, you still have a bargaining power because you cannot produce an output without human intervention. So the pie was split is you work for me, I deploy capital, capital is machine, and you create tasks along with the machine, and then boom, you produce something, I sell it at a profit, and then I pay you wages, or I split with you, and I keep the rest, me and the shareholders or provider of capital. As more and more of these tasks become automated / autonomous, then the pie that goes to labor that is undertaking these human tasks, shrink more and more, and they're, the labor part of the value added would be marginalized to a certain extent, and therefore the bargaining power would be slowly stripped away from providers of labors, in favor of those that own the asset, and hence we also need to kind of redesign, right? Talking about whether capitalism, the way we know it, should change, it almost have to in an autonomous society. Otherwise, those who can own the assets, they will have less of an incentive to pay fair wages to those that are actually either involved in these repetitive tasks, or maybe those who are involved in those human tasks will have such a high value that there's no need for those that get laid off to be reintegrated within society. So how are we going to split the pie? Do we, as steward of capital, have to kind of think about a redistribution system back into the society to enable those that were replaced by the machine? Maybe. Does the machine now that is producing needs to pay taxes? Maybe. Do owners of these assets need to pay more taxes? This may not be very popular opinion, but we ought to think about it in order for us to kind of constitute a society. So money has to come from somewhere. So I think whoever owns the asset will obviously controls a bigger chunk of the autonomous economy. Is it a matter of jobs or ownership? So is the debate of robotics contributed to an autonomous society? Is it a job or an ownership thing? I think it's both, but it's mostly a labor thing as opposed to a job. I think that we're going to have wage stagnation. I think we're going to have new jobs that are being created, but the demand for labor will be reduced. So that's, two or three things happen. I think, there's going to be a period of time where we need to kind of like retool society or redistribute, labor, across the economy, right? So that would take time because, the whole society has been built for, people to do specific jobs that may not exist, or actually they will exist, under a different shape or form. So I think the whole thing will have to be, and maybe part of the debate of those who own these assets, they probably need to maybe not pay taxes, because taxes, we all know it goes nowhere. But maybe we ought to create a different tax or system that literally allows people to kind of go back into an apprenticeship of a sort, or reform the educational system, so those artists that go to these educational system or these apprenticeship end up actually having skills that are actually of a value to an autonomous society. That's the way I look at it. I think we've seen it already. I think the internet had, displaced some workers, but I don't think we saw massive unemployment. I think people retooled themselves and learn new skills and adopt it. Plus, there will be a demand for other services that may require more labor integration. I'm not a big believer that labor will completely disappear. I mean, at least demand for labor. It will shrink. We're gonna have to reimagine it, but it's not gonna disappear.